another edition of the Edgington Post Show. This is Mark Edge, and I am coming to you live with Sasha Daygame. Sasha, we interviewed you at the last Anarchapulco. Is that right?
That's right. I remember that. It was fun.
Yeah. And this year you've got a much bigger role at Anarchapulco. Apparently you're going to host a thing called the Infinite Man Workshop.
The Infinite Man Summit. That's right.
Okay. I want to hear a bit about that. But first I'd just like to, go through your resume here, as it were. You started out as a stand-up comic?
That's right. For many years.
Yeah. Where was that? Did you tour? I mean, mostly in one particular area?
I started out in Toronto, a little bit in LA when I was really early on, and then I was whole career basically in London and all around the UK, a little bit in Sweden, Holland, but yeah, mainly I was in the UK.
And then you apparently went on from being a stand-up comic to a dating coach. What is that?
That's right. Well, I had a really tough childhood growing up. It was really brutal. I was the only kid that I knew that was actively trying to get kidnapped. Hanging out up front, people would walk by. I'd be like, "Sir, do you want a kid? Please, take me with you." True story. So it was really tough for me. So my way of sort of getting love, because I didn't get it at home, was cracking jokes. And so that filled the void for a while, but I really, I was horrible with women, frankly. I just had no self-love, didn't know who I was, could not get a girlfriend, even though I desperately wanted one, which is a normal thing for, young men. And, I decided to, I just got exposed to this whole pickup community. But back then it was very, very fake. It was like, you got to go to the club and dress cool and get girls drunk and tell these cool stories of how great you are, all this stupid shit. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to go on the street and I'm going to come up to girls and tell them they're cute and ask them for their phone number. And I started doing that, and it just kind of blew up, and just people started, this whole movement called Daygame started, and now it's a whole thing.
Yeah, so you were doing sort of the pickup artist thing. How successful is it just walking up asking women for their telephone number? How does that go?
It really depends on who you are, your level of skill, but ultimately what I realized, how comfortable you are with yourself. Because women, they're very, very good at picking up what's going on. So if you're kind of insecure and scared and you're not really comfortable in your own skin, even though you might have the courage to walk up and say hi, they'll still be like, okay, this guy's really forcing it. He's a bit weird, whatever. So it might not work. But if you really work on yourself and you're pretty real about it, and you're just like, hey, look, you know what? You're gorgeous. I'd love to go on a date with you. I just thought I'd come over and have a chat, see if we connect. And your energy is good, and she's not getting creepy vibes. Yeah, women will chat to you. They'll give you their number. At one point I was dating 4 women at once, and I met 3 out of the 4 doing exactly that, and one a different way. So it definitely can work.
Huh. I have done it one time in my life, and I was, I think, in high school when I did it, and had some level of success. But not my system. Then again, I'm married, so I don't need a system. I'm doing all right. How does that figure in any way to the Infinite Man Summit idea? Or it sounds like you want to work on yourself before presenting it to the greater audience, as it were.
Exactly right. So back in those days, again, when you're a young man and you got a high sex drive, the priorities, you want to meet girls. It doesn't really get more priority than that, when you're like 18, you know how it is. We've all been there, But of course, what I learned after all these years and eventually moving into, personal development is that everything comes down to your relationship with yourself. Who are you? Knowing who you are, knowing why you're here, knowing your purpose in life, and really, really loving and appreciating yourself, and really getting past a lot of this trauma that we're exposed to in this society, right? I mean, you've seen it, and anybody in the anarchist volunteers freedom movement knows the news, the media, all of it. All the propaganda, the women have to be perfect and men have to earn this much money and drive this car and be masculine, all this kind of stuff. So we're getting so much, it's so difficult to compete on the level we're supposed to compete at. Everybody's, we're all looking at everyone as the competitor. We're all cutting each other's throats trying to get ahead in life because that's the system that we're in, And so you take all of that trauma, all that pressure, you got to earn $250,000 a year. This guy's earning $500,000. Oh, this guy's making up, this guy's worth $20 million. So we've got all that, and then of course we get all that trauma from our parents. Unless your parents are enlightened masters, guess what? You're picking up all their patterns, all their insecurities, all this stuff from them. So most people, surprise, surprise, they got issues, And so as a man, especially out in this world, you really got to work on yourself to get to a place of healing. You got to heal your trauma. You got to figure out who you are and what you're doing here, and eventually you get to a point where you really feel good about your life and where you're at in the four core areas, hopefully, which is what we focus on at the summit. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your purpose / spiritual connection, if you will. And when you get it down, you're pretty decent. Yeah, it's you can get a girl. Absolutely, you can get a girlfriend, you can get a wife, you can get multiple girlfriends, you can whatever you want. But it really comes down to who are you? How do you feel about yourself? Are you doing okay? Are you okay? You need to be in a place where you're pretty solid if you really want to attract an amazing partner.
Yeah, I used to look at it. I had this policy where I was going to do something every day to work on my mind, my body, my spirit, and my finances. And I figured, let's forward motion. Forward motion's a good thing. What I have found in watching other people, because I haven't had I didn't have a lot of problems with this particular aspect all along. I realized that there are about as many men as there are women on the planet, and that means that in my age group there are about as many women as there are men, and that means that they're not gonna. They'd like a guy with a job, but they don't need a guy with a particularly large paycheck. It just never was an issue for me. But when I've talked to friends who seem to have that hang up, it seems like there's no paycheck that will ever make them whole. Like they're never going to get to that point. If you're looking at a paycheck to make you worthy of dating, then you're never going to get the paycheck large enough to make you worthy of dating, is how I see it.
Brother, you said it exactly right, but it goes so much deeper than that. And this is what I've been discovering on my, spiritual path, which I've been on now quite heavily for a couple of years. You're never going to find deep, lasting happiness in anything other than your connection with yourself, whether it be drugs or alcohol or, finally when I get a beautiful girlfriend, then I'll be happy. Or when I get that job or that, $1 million paycheck or whatever, I'll be happy. Nothing will make you happy other than living the most authentic version of yourself. Really, when you recognize this is who I am, this is what makes me happy, this is why it's really about finding your purpose. It really is a real thing. It's not just something I throw around. I genuinely believe every single human being has a reason that they're here. We have a divine purpose that we're doing on the planet. It's a big thing coming down here and incarnating as a human. It's tough work being a person, and if you really align yourself with who you are and what you're doing here, the joy of life is in being who you are fully, authentically in every single moment, expressing, the highest version of yourself possible. That's where the joy is. And when you're really comfortable in your own skin, just being who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you make or the clothes you wear or none of those things matter because you're just happy existing. And that, for me, that's the point of the Infinite Man Summit, getting your health, your wealth, your spirituality, your relationships all aligned so you really can just be a happy, wonderful, loving person every single day.
Yeah, to me, when it came to relationships, which I think are probably what people think about the most, it seems like for men, they go to work in order to make the money so that they can have the relationship. Like all these things it all seems focused around the relationship. When when you stop, I know it's an old cliche, right? You stop looking, and then it comes to you. But I think really for me, what it meant was I stopped trying to be something that somebody might look for, and instead was just who I wanted to be. And then I attracted the kind of person that I was looking for, as opposed to if you're putting out strange bait, you're going to get strange, catches, as opposed to putting out, what's right for you. Then, yeah, you're going to get the right person in.
Brother, once again, you nailed it right on the head, man. And that's what's so frustrating for me when I see these guys. They're trying to be something that they're not. They're trying to be more alpha, or act like they're more successful, or act like they have more money than they have, or whatever. But what are you going to attract if you're acting like, I'm a super macho man and I'm so rich? Okay, you're going to get a gold digger who wants you for your money. Great. And even if you sleep with her once or twice, how long before she realizes you're full of crap and she goes on to the guy who really has more money than you? I mean, it's horrible. But when you're just being you and you're comfortable in your own skin, you're going to find a woman who likes you for you, and that's where the magic is, right there.
And the relationship that a woman can provide is so much more important than however she looks physically. There's this great meme I've seen on the internet a few times since I've been on there, which is this beautiful woman in some position or another, and it says, no matter how good she looks to you right now, there's somebody who's sick and tired of putting up with her crap. We're back with the interview with Sasha Daygame, who'll be doing the Infinite Man Summit at Anarchapulco. And what it says to me is that, that looks aren't particularly meaningful when it comes to women and men. They basically look the same, right? There's 2 eyes, a nose, couple of ears, a mouth, genitals are in the same place. It's not that big of a deal. These people that have the perfect body proportions and all that stuff, that doesn't make for a good personality. It doesn't make for good conversation. It doesn't make for somebody that you want to hang out with.
I mean, that's true. It's definitely looks aren't everything. It's definitely a factor. Just like we'd be lying to ourselves if we said money wasn't a factor or your job or whatever. They're a factor, but the biggest factor is authenticity. It's just being who you are, expressing that, and attracting the right people to you, the right dating, the right job, the right everything. It's just about keeping it real. But we're living in a world that's so fake that, if being fake is almost the default. I mean, look at how many people out there are living lives based on what their parents wanted them to do for work or what society thinks they should do. How many people are doctors and lawyers because their parents said, oh, you have to have a respectable job and make lots of money, when actually they want to be a painter or they want to be a yoga teacher or they want to write. I would argue that most people that have those types of jobs are in them to please either their parents or society, other people's idea. People literally live their whole lives trying to fit in based on other people's opinions, which is complete insanity. In fact, I'm writing a book right now called How to Win Friends by Pissing People Off, which is all about, if you knew me, you'd get the joke even more. It's all about basically breaking through those constructs and so you can actually follow your heart and completely shattering the ego, that part of us that's desperate to please the world and fit in. You'll never be happy if you're trying to live your life based on other people's expectations. It's impossible, and that's where they have us. That's why they got us by the balls, because we as people still believe that we have to conform in order to be happy, but actually true happiness lies in conformity only with what's in our hearts. That's it. Only when we follow our true joy, our true heart, our own path, then we can truly be happy and have blissful lives.
Do you find anybody who says, I don't really know who the real me is. I don't really know what I want to do. I've always done the things that other people have wanted me to do and conformed. Do you find anybody who asks that?
Absolutely. Brother, I'm 39 years old. My next birthday I'll be 40, which is, I'm a grown boy. And I feel only now in the last year have I truly discovered who I am. And I had a pretty good idea before, but it's an ongoing process. And that's another thing that humans, we tend to do that's really, we're tough on ourselves. We're trained to be perfect. Look at the ads for the women, what they're supposed to look like. Is it any wonder women are depressed and spending money on plastic surgery like never before? Because we put all this pressure on ourselves, but there's no need to do that when you recognize that each single human being is every snowflake is literally different. And each individual person is completely different, and it's in finding that uniqueness and that passion, discovering truly why you're here. That's where the joy of life is. So I would say to any man out there, or any woman also, if you really don't know why you're here, that's your job. Discover who you are. Why are you here? What brings you the most joy and passion and excitement in life? And our hearts tell us, they lead us all the time, but we're so programmed to be in our heads and to think our way through everything and overanalyze everything. But actually, if you look at an EKG of a human being, there's a huge electromagnetic field surrounding us, but it doesn't come from our brain. It comes from our hearts. We are actually heart-centered beings, and we're purposely disconnected from our heart center. And when we reconnect to that center, that's where we find out who we are, what we're doing here. Our hearts, our feelings, our excitement always shows us the path forward, and we're just trained not to follow our intuition. And that's, again, part of the big thing that we talk about and work on at the Infinite Man Summit, following our hearts, getting clear enough, taking away the layers of shit and programming. Sorry, you're going to have to bleep that out again. Taking away all the bad stuff, so we can really find what is in our center, what is really there in our hearts, and how we can follow that and live authentic lives.
How do people get to go to this Infinite Man Summit? Is it part of Anarchapulco? Is it before or after? How do they go?
Yeah, this one that's happening next, it's on the 18th and 19th of February, and it's directly after. It's the 2 days after Anarchapulco, and all the tickets are available on Anarchapulco's website. And yeah, you just go get a ticket. You'll get all the information emailed to you, and it's going to be moving. I guarantee anybody who comes to this, they will have a shift in their life as long as they're open to real change.
Yeah, I think that's well, the Anarchapulco event generally is going to offer some kind of change, and I think the Infinite Man Summit sounds like something that's going to be very motivating for lots of people. Sasha Daygame, thanks so much. Can you tell people real quick about Woke As, your podcast?
Sure. I've got a spiritual podcast, which I can't say the name of because you'll have to bleep it out, but woke.as with 3 W's before that, so www.woke.as. And it's just my podcast where I interview people on the road to self-realization. You could call it the road to enlightenment. And it's pretty profound. Again, it's all about who are we, loving ourselves, and raising our consciousness. And this is something that's happening, and it's happening in Anarchapulco. And all over the world, people are literally raising their frequency, their vibration. And I'll tell you what, everything changes when you raise yourself up. It's it's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds rather vain to claim enlightenment, but I do claim to be on a path to discovery. I do claim that I'm trying to figure out what life is all about, and I'm interested in people who are interested in that kind of thing too.
That's what I say. There's only really two types of people. They're the people who are open and are consciously working on improving themselves and their path, and they're the people who are completely are not. That's it. And as long as you're in that group that's actually working on yourself, you have my respect and my love, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can.
Sasha Daygame, Infinite Man Summit, Anarchapulco, February 18th and 19th. Thank you.
Thanks so much, brother. It's been a pleasure.